I glance at the clock on the wall and it's 9 p.m. My parents and most people have retired to bed. Already this is the east, the sun rises here. So it's already dark by 9 p.m. The sky is beautifully lit. The stars shining brightly as if they are calling out to me, making me itch to go out even more. Deciding I can't take it anymore, I kick off the sheets and I jump to my feet. I get out of my pajama bottoms and put on my black leggings, oversized black hoodie, black beanie, and finally, my black sneakers. I'm trying to be as invisible as I can be. I open my window and check to ensure the coast is clear, and it is. My room is on the 5th floor, but I'm not climbing all the way to the 1st floor. I only climb 2 floors down and jump down from there. Perks of being a werewolf. This is the only time I can step on human territory with no consequences, and the only time I can get away from my security detail. I walk through the gardens and finally reach the wall. This side isn't highly guarded since there's a super high cliff on the other side. There's no way someone can climb and enter without getting caught, as it would take time. The only creature that can is a bloodsucker. From what I've heard of them, thank goddess, they were exiled long before I was born. The only thing that saddens me is the loss of the mate bond their exile resulted in. It sounds beautiful from what I've heard, and I would have loved to experience that kind of love, but then again, there's no guarantee my fiancé would have been my mate. Decades ago, vampires and wolves coexisted. King Aldrich, the Vampire King, and King Silver III established a peace treaty. It was the first time such a thing was heard of, and many were skeptical, even revolted against it, but the two kings were determined to make it work. They weren't backing down. Not until they had achieved their vision. Those who rose against them were exiled by our king, and stories say the Vampire King had those that revolted against him burned. They were taken out in the night and tied to poles, bound by magic spells that stripped them of their strength. In the morning, the sun would rise and feast on their flesh, turning them to ash. Eventually, it was quiet. Everybody accepted the treaty. Those who were crossmated were the happiest, cause they no longer had to fear for their mates' lives. There was harmony in the land for a while until strange patterns started to develop, and the irregularities led to questions being asked. The number of vampires who were mated to female wolves increased drastically. Wolves who were mated to vampires gave birth to hybrids, powerful creatures with the strength of both species, who, even though had the blood of both creatures running through their veins, were loyal to their vampire side. Their vampire side dominated their wolf side so much that, if ever a time came when they would have to choose, they would have chosen the vampires. That gave the vampires an advantage over us. Vampires used to get mated to humans the most, but suddenly, things changed. Human mates decreased while wolf mates increased. After King Silver started to investigate, he discovered that vampires had found a way to turn wolves who weren't their mates, by biting them before their wolves awaken, causing them to recognize the vampires as their mates when they came of age, and their wolves awoke. When our king took his findings to the Vampire King, the Vampire King didn't want to hear about it. He stood by his people and felt insulted by the allegations. A war that almost left the kingdom in ruins broke out. The vampires, even though had the advantage, were defeated, but soon a new problem arose. All those they had turned continued to fight for them even after it was clear they had lost the fight. That led to the king ordering them to be put down. Stories say it was the hardest decision he ever had to make, but he knew it had to be done. Otherwise, all would have been undone. It was a gruesome sight. The streets were littered with bodies and flooded with blood, and after the dust had settled, everyone woke up to a horrendous new reality. The mate bond was no more. No one ever found their mate again. Even those that had already found theirs couldn't feel the bond anymore. The bond had vanished. At least for wolves. No one knew if it was the case for the vampires, until 6 months later. That is, Emelina, the king's sorceress, revealed to the king that this was the case. The gods were angry about the bloodshed and cursed us all as punishment. I jump over the wall successfully without being caught and start walking to the south. Part of it, walking out here and looking down the cliff, was something I always loved to do, and one day while at it, I decided to rest and lean on the wall. To my surprise, The stones shifted and opened. I entered thinking it was a pathway leading back inside, and I was right, but the passage going back in was not the only thing I found. There was another passage. Another that led somewhere else. Out of curiosity, I followed it, and it led me to a cave behind a waterfall. I was wary, but I went on and climbed out of it regardless. And before I knew it, I was in the forbidden part of the forest, the human territory. I don't know what it is, but ever since I found it, I haven't been able to stop coming here. It's like something's calling out to us. Even Carla agrees. I've now successfully navigated through the cave and I'm on dry land. My parents would freak out if they knew about this, but I can't help myself. Besides the feeling that this place gives me, I need this time alone. Living in the royal mansion means being surrounded by people all the time. One would think I'd be used to it considering that's how I grew up. But sometimes it becomes too much. Sometimes I wish I could take a normal stroll on the streets without being hounded down by reporters and suffocated by bodyguards. A month ago, I turned 18 and in 6 months, I'll be moving into new territory and things will only get more serious from there. I'm betrothed to Kellen Hagen, and will be tying the knot in 6 months. Kellen is the Lord of Brakendal. It is the largest kingdom of the 8 kingdoms under our Leaken King. King Silver for their pack, the Blood Fury pack, also has no rivalry. It is the #1 strongest of all 20 packs. We are to start our training as soon as we get married, so we may be ready to take over from his parents in 3 years as king and queen. My marriage to Kellen is not out of love and is not my choice either, but I have accepted it. My kingdom, the Nova Kingdom, is the smallest of the 8 kingdoms. The union will benefit my people. It will strengthen our kingdom by giving us more power and influence. My father, Duncan Kane, is the king of Nova, and I'm an only child, and so all the responsibility falls on me, and I'm ready to take it on. Our marriage was also arranged a long time ago, so we kind of grew up knowing what is expected of us. I'm still walking to the spot where I hide my clothes when my wolf starts pacing up and down in my head. Restless, I ask her what's wrong, and she says we need to stop and go back. She starts to panic and I'm still trying to calm her down when, all of a sudden, I feel this chill run down my spine. What the hell? My wolf tells me that someone is here and starts growling. I ask if it's humans, knowing full well there's no way it could be humans. Humans don't give me chills, she replies, snarling, and just then I hear heartbeats right behind me. I slowly turn around, to be met with 6 smirking faces, and my breath gets stuck in my throat as I gasp in pure horror. It's 6 guys who look to be in their 20s. But what causes me to stop breathing isn't their looks or sickening smirks, but what they hold in their hands. They are all carrying crossbows, and they are pointed at me. They also have backpacks with more weapons sticking out of them and are all dressed army style. They even have night vision goggles on. I swallow hard, involuntarily taking a step back, my brain unable to comprehend what's happening. They look like hunters, but it's impossible. There haven't been hunters for decades. I have never seen a real-life hunter all my life. I only know about them from stories I've been told and movies, just like vampires, witches, and fairies. Are you lost, honey? One of them taunts. What is a pretty young thing like yourself doing out here this time of the night, all by yourself? He adds, and I look at them, unable to reply as I try to calm myself and find my voice. I didn't even hear them come up behind me, nor catch their scent in the stories. I was told a hunter's scent is different from that of a human. My heart's beating like it's going to leap out of my chest, and my wolf is snarling loudly in my head. I try to act as calm as I possibly can and pretend to be human, desperately praying they don't recognize me. I'm waiting for someone. I finally manage to speak, but one of them cuts me off. Whore, he asks, the disgusting smirk on his face widening. Your wolf? He adds, and my eyes widen in surprise. So they know I'm a werewolf? How? What wolf? I ask, still trying to act clueless, but I can see they are not buying it. My wolf thinks we should attack first, but I'm not sure about that. These are hunters, pointing out weapons that are fatal to us, and there are 6 of them. I don't run from a fight, but right now, All the odds are against us. I can't attack and disarm all of them at once, no matter how I look at it. Cut it out, beast. We know you're not human, only your head's making it out of this forest tonight. The one in the middle spits, his voice laced with disgust. They cock their guns, and I take that as my cue. It's fight or flight. I could outrun them and risk taking a few arrows. Maybe only the first round of shots would get me, and I could maybe still get away. But where would I run to? I couldn't risk exposing my pack, so I decide on the latter, feeling the former is just too risky. I charge at them still in my human form, and they deploy their arrows, but I dodge them with a quick knee slide. I reach them and effortlessly sweep 5 of them off their feet, using my legs, but not before feeling a stinging sensation as one arrow grazes my shoulder with a quick rolling back and forth motion on the ground. I make the one still standing miss. With all the arrows he continues to deploy, I immediately grab a big log and throw it at him, sending him flying a few meters away from the others. That second was all I needed, and I'm up on my feet again. The wind whistles as a couple of arrows head my way. The 4 that I knocked down, up on their feet again as well. I leap up before doubling over in midair and, launching myself at them, I evade the arrows successfully before shifting to my wolf, still airborne, and I land right on top of them and take them down. I rip one's head off before feeling something pierce my left hind leg, my flank, and nape. A whimper escapes me as I stagger before the whimper turns into a vicious growl. The one continuing to fire at me, I charge at him before leaping up and knocking his head clean off his shoulders. The arrows are raining down on me at this point, but I charge back at the 4. It's obvious we're dying here tonight, but I'll take as many as I can with me. I've been training all my life. I'm a formidable fighter, but I was never prepared for anything like this. I can feel the silver infusing into my blood, but the adrenaline pumping in me right now is too much. It's not allowing me to process what my body's going through. There's no time for that. I'm ready to fight until my last breath, and my wolf and I are one, both ready to meet the gods tonight. She's growling fiercely. She's an alpha and will die an alpha death. I land on my 3rd target, clawing him in the face, causing him to fall on his back with me right on top of him. He screams in agony, but his screams are cut short as I slice his throat open with one slash, causing his blood to spray my face, going into my eyes. Moments ago, I didn't think I stood a chance, but now I do. With that thought in mind, I leap up again, my sights set on my next target, but my eyes widen when something comes over me. One suddenly threw a net over me, causing me to fall miserably on my side. The arrows that I've taken on my right side sink deeper as they break in half, and I howl in pain. I try to claw at it and get out, but they pull it down, scooping me all the way up in the air. The net is laced with silver and wolfsbane, and I groan in agony as it drains all my strength and burns my flesh. The realization that there's nothing more I can do hits me hard, and the panic causes me to involuntarily shift. Taking back my human form, I watch them as they start checking on their dead and their wounds, before paying attention back to me again. My breath is ragged as I struggle to breathe, feeling my body slowly shutting down. My wolf is desperately trying to heal us, but she's fighting a losing battle with all the silver and wolfsbane inside us. It's only a matter of minutes now. I can feel it. I'm sorry, Carla, I whisper to her, feeling responsible for our suffering. I did this to us. I killed us. If I didn't continue coming here, we would be safe at home right now. Finish it, one of the guys shouts, and my eyes travel to the right to find one, aiming for my head. I guess they don't want to take any chances. I close my eyes, having accepted our fate, but the arrow never comes. Instead, I hear a whoosh sound followed by a loud groan. My eyes slowly open to find a 4th guy lying dead on the ground, his head decapitated, while there's another sound of bones breaking, followed by another groan, and blood splatters everywhere, some splashing on me. A 5th guy now falls to the ground with a hole in his chest. We have enhanced vision as wolves, which enables us to see fast-moving objects that regular human eyes would never be able to catch. But whatever this is, it's way faster. There's a scream before something slams hard against the tree below me, and my eyes follow the sound to find a headless body that's ripped in half. The body hits the tree and falls back to the ground, and I finally see him. The dead body lies next to his feet, guts spilling out and the blood still spraying out from where the head was. He's got his back to me, half naked with only jeans and boots on, and is standing rigid, looking at the dead body that's still thrashing on the ground. Is he hissing? I struggle against the net, not even sure how I'm able to, as I couldn't move just a moment ago. But death is no longer what I fear. What scares me is the fire that's ignited in my soul, a soul I felt slowly leaving my body just minutes ago. The hair at the back of my neck stands as a blood-curdling chill runs down my back, curling my toes before tears roll down my face as I exhale. It's like I've just taken my first breath after years of suffocation. The energy rolling off of him is dark and thick. It should be making me want to close my eyes and pray for a quick death. But it's not. My heart's beating so fast that I feel like it's going to tear through my chest. It's screaming, desperate, and a loud whimper escapes my mouth as my mind, heart, and soul fight for control, making me feel like I'm losing my mind. He slowly turns to face me, still clutching the dead guy's heart, beating and dripping blood. Our eyes meet, his pitch black with no sign of white in them, and everything stops. The world fading to the background as Carla whispers the one word I never dreamed I'd ever hear in this lifetime. Mate. My eyes immediately roll to the back of my head and darkness swallows me whole. Gutted. Warning, the chapter contains violence. 1 year ago in Silvera. Ares. He's coming. Brother, my brother, Nolan says, placing a hand on my shoulder as I glance down the corridor after pulling back from our hug, and I sigh. Take care of him, I tell him, not responding to what he just said. You know I will, he replies, and I nod before looking down at my wristwatch. We are ready, my prince. One of the guards that will be escorting me to the airport speaks, and I nod before turning to look at my brother again. Goodbye, brother, I bid him. Goodbye, and turn around, heading to the exit, my heart sinking lower with each step. Ares. I only take a few steps before I finally hear the voice I've been waiting for all day, calling my name. I turn around to see my father walking up to me. Father, you came. Of course, I came. What kind of father would I be if I didn't come to see my son off? I engulf him in a hug, feeling emotional. Suddenly my father and I had been fighting for months leading up to this day. He didn't want me to join the army. He wanted me to stay here in the kingdom and start practicing for my role as king for when I take over from him. But that's not what I want. I have no interest in the throne, but I know it's my responsibility, and so I've accepted the fact that I have to be king one day, and I will be, but that's 3 years from now, and I want to do other things with my life before then. Once I become king, I will base everything I do on my position, not on how I feel or what I want. So I applied to join the military and got accepted. I plan to serve until it's time to sit on the throne. My father and I pull back from the hug, and he places both hands firmly on my shoulders, his eyes gleaming with unshed tears. I love you, son. You are everything to me, and I'm sorry for always standing in front of your dreams and making your life impossible. It's not that I enjoyed it or that I wanted to, but you were born with a great responsibility on your shoulders. Ares, you have a responsibility to our people. Their lives depend on us, and we can never let them down. The king in me has tried and failed to see reason, but the Father does. May your days in the military be everything you hoped for. Don't forget who you are and remember to keep our secret. No one must ever know what you are. He pauses for a moment, his eyes holding a strong emotion as he cups my face. Ares Anselm Silver, my one and only son, my life, my heir, I give you my blessing. Go and live your dreams, my son, but come back to us. We need you. I need you. I will, Father, I promise, I reply, leaning our foreheads together. Thank you, and I love you. You are everything to me. Too. We let go of each other, a traitorous tear escaping my eye as I bow to my father. My king, I salute, my voice quavering, before turning around and walking out. A grueling 15 hours later, we touch down and descend from the plane to find a black SUV already waiting to take me to the base. My security detail stays behind from this point. From this point on, there are no more royal guards and treatment, no more Ares Silver the prince, but Ares Silver the man, the soldier. I take a deep breath, feeling free for the first time in my life. All my life, I've had people waiting on me hand and nail, and as nice as it might sound to someone on the outside looking in, it can be very suffocating when you're the one living it, especially when you can never be yourself. When you can only bring half of you to the light, and the other must forever lurk in the shadows. It's one thing to have to keep our existence a secret from humans that comes naturally, you can even say we are born with it, but having to keep a part of who you are from your own kind and family is something else entirely. I'd give anything to be a regular dude, and be free to live my life the way I want, with no kingdom-threatening secrets. The driver opens the door, and I turn to look at my guards one last time. They all bow, and I return it with a neck bow and get inside the car, but the moment the door closes and the car starts moving, a weird, uneasy feeling washes over me. Atticus, my Lycan, also starts getting agitated. I feel my eye color change from my natural silver, going a shade darker, which is his eye color, as he tries to force himself out, and I clench my fist, fighting the transformation, not understanding what's going on. This has never happened before. I hiss, closing my eyes as my claws surface and start digging into my palms before feeling my canines elongate, and I hope the guy behind me doesn't see the blood I've already picked up, that they are humans and something like this would spook them. I'm still trying to calm Atticus with my eyes still closed when I feel a sharp pain on my neck as something penetrates my skin, causing me to snap my eyes open. A growl escaping my lips. A syringe with a green liquid in it falls on my lap as I rip the perpetrator's arm out of the socket by reflex before his head follows suit. Atticus immediately takes over, tearing the car apart as he does, causing it to overturn and spill us out like rag dolls. We land on our feet and watch as the driver hits the ground hard before letting out a pained groan as his back makes contact with a tree just a few feet away from us. Atticus lets out a vicious growl as we proceed to him, and he tries to crawl away, too disoriented to get up. I'm sorry, please, please, he begs, now sliding on his back, but his pleas fall on deaf ears. I grab him by the neck and lift him off the ground, wanting to look him in the eye before ripping his head off, but just then, I'm hit with what feels like a lightning bolt in my head. A sharp pain causes me to stagger backward, dropping him on the ground as I clutch my head, my skull feeling like it's splitting in half. Atticus lets out a painful growl as I fall on my knees, feeling whatever it is that they have injected me with, making its way into my bloodstream, causing my body to feel like it's going to burst into flames. I involuntarily shift back to my human form, my strength draining from my body as I start to feel paralyzed. What have you done to me? I try to speak, also trying to get up, but choke as blood spews out of my mouth. Night, Your Majesty, is the last thing I hear before a boot makes contact with my face. I open my eyes, looking around, disoriented, and it's dark. My eyes won't adjust. I groan, feeling something is wrong, and try to feel Atticus, but I can't. It's like he's gone, leaving me with nothing but a terrifying void in my head. And for the first time, I'm cold. I try to raise my head, but choke as something sinks into the skin of my neck, restricting my movements, and I realize I'm strapped to a metal table. It's no use, the chains are bonded with magic. You are only hurting yourself more trying to move. A voice speaks from the corner of the room, and I squint my eyes, looking in its direction, the voice sounding familiar. Hello, Ares, Cora speaks, coming into my view, holding a bucket and a big knife in the other hand. Cora? Yes, my love, she says, her voice sounding bitter at the end. What is this, Cora? I ask, trying to move but groan as the wire sinks more into my skin. I told you. You're only making it worse. What have you done to me? What am I doing here? Why can't I feel Atticus? I scream at her, feeling a surge of rage, but she remains unfazed. She places the bucket down on the table, all the while clicking her tongue. Mind your tone. My prince, this isn't Silvera. You don't call the shots here, I do, she warns, now waving her finger in my face, angering me even more. Get these fucking things off of me now, Cora. Or what? She screams back in my face, butting our foreheads together. What, Ares? You're going to hurt me? We both know you already did that. So that's what all this is about? I'm pumped full of voodoo and tired to a table because I broke your stupid heart? Get me out of these fucking things, you crazy bitch. Stupid heart, she repeats, her voice just above a whisper before letting out a chuckle as she straightens up. I try to speak, but the words die in my throat as she punches me hard in the nose before shaking her hand, her face contorting in pain. Don't you dare say that to me. Do not say that to me, Ares. That's what they said. That's what they all said to me as they spat on me after confessing my feelings for you. They said I was wasting precious time trying to spare your life, but I groveled and begged for your miserable life only for you to prove them right. I didn't want to do this to you, Ares. I wanted us to rule side by side as king and queen. I wanted to give you beautiful silver babies, but you broke my heart, Ares, and cast me out like I was nothing. I was drunk. Cora, I apologized to you in the morning. I didn't even know how you ended up in my bed in the first place. What did you want me to do? Pretend I was in love with you? Are you that desperate? I tell her, raising my head, ignoring the metal that's cutting into my skin, and her expression immediately changes into a hurt one, a lone tear escaping her eye as she stands rooted, looking at me. Look, I'm sorry, Cora. I never meant to hurt you. I swear if I could take it back, I would now. If you get these things off of me now, I promise I won't take any action against you. No one will ever know, okay? But you need to release me now. I believe you. Your kind heart was one of the things that made me stray from my mission in the first place. You're nothing like the other princes and kings. You're gentle and kind. I've kidnapped, used magic on you, and yet you're still willing to let me go even though what I've done is punishable by death. Another prince would have me hanged, but not you. You're one of a kind, Ares Anselm Silver. That's why I believed in you. Why I believed I could talk to you to end all this nonsense between our people. But now that bridge is already burned. Nonsense? Your people? What the fuck are you talking about? I ask, having no idea what she's raving about, but she just starts laughing, tears streaming from her face. You have no idea, do you? Of what? You dash, she starts to say, walking up to me again, but a text comes through on her phone. Look at that. It's time, she says, glancing at me with a sad smile on her face as she takes the lid off the bucket and picks up the knife. What the hell are you doing? Shush, it'll all be over soon, she says, going under the table, and I let out a loud groan as she plunges the knife deep into my back before pulling it out and plunging it in again, stabbing me repeatedly. I immediately feel my blood draining from my body. I'm sorry, Ares, I really am. I wanted to save you. I truly did. I tried to ask you nicely for your heart, so I can protect it, but you refused, so now I have no choice but to take it. But I won't break it, I promise, she says, the last part gently placing a kiss on my forehead. Cora dash, I try to speak, starting to feel droopy, but she shushes me. Shh. Hush now, my love, don't fight it. You'll only make it worse for the both of us, she says, lifting the knife before burying it deep in my chest as she guts me open, causing me to scream, writhing in agony. Nolan, my brother's name, is the last thing I hear as she starts chanting in a foreign language. Sleepless nights. Cora. Damn it. What took you so long? Is it done? Nolan asks, letting me inside and closing the door after making sure the floor is empty. It's done, I reply, putting the metal pail on the table. Finally, he says, taking the lid off. Staring at the contents. Are you sure it's not going to stop? He asks, now looking over at me. It won't. Not as long as you follow the instructions I gave you. He seals the pail again. Here. I hand him the ring. Remember never to take it off. I won't. Does the king know? Yes. The news was delivered this afternoon. He's in pretty bad shape and not the only one, it seems. I'm fine. I knew this day was coming. You don't have to pretend with me. Cora, you tried to save the guy because you loved him. I lost focus, and he helped me find my way by rejecting me. MMH. Do you need anything? I would like to go lie down. His body. You dash. I threw it down the mountain. Without a head, right? There was no need dash. Cora asterisk asterisk. If it were your heart beating inside that bucket, would you have survived? Keep your voice down. Do you want the whole palace to hear you? No. I won't. You're not the one who had to look him in the eye while ripping out his heart. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm paranoid, he says, pouring himself a glass of whiskey. We grew up together. Cora, we may not have the same blood running in our veins, but he was always a brother to me. And yet you plotted his death. That's father's fault for insisting on making a weakling king. Ares didn't have the stomach for this. He didn't even want to be king. That in itself proves just how unworthy he was or is. I don't know. Do we speak about him in the present or past tense? Since, you know, his heart is still beating? I have a long day tomorrow, I tell him and walk to the exit. You don't want to spend the night together? Grieve? No, thanks. I'll pass. I grieve better alone, I reply and walk out before he has time to say anything else. Good night. I hear him shout out as I start walking down the corridor, and I don't reply. I walk inside my room and close the door before sliding down on it, my own heart bleeding as Ares's dying face keeps flashing before my eyes, his last breaths haunting my ears. He was good, gentle, and kind. He didn't deserve to die like that. I feel hot tears running down my face and wipe them off before pulling my knees to my chest. It was a necessary evil. Cora, I whisper to myself, burying my head on my knees. But the words don't bring me any comfort. When I stopped by the coven to complete the ritual, everyone was in good spirits. As we have taken one more step closer to our freedom, it hasn't been easy living in hiding and away from our ancestral land after my people were exiled in Silvera for working with the vampires. They went into a hideout they had prepared. In case something like that were to happen, they saw how careless and greedy the vampires grew, and after their cautions fell on deaf ears, they started preparing for the worst. As witches, we draw our strength from our dead, so we must remain in one place if we are to remain strong. But what our regent never saw coming was the vampires coming after us after they were defeated. They turned on us and started coming for us. They terrorized us in the night, causing us to flee and leave everything behind. When our regent saw the suffering of our people, she made a promise to find a way to return them to their homes. She didn't have a clear plan as to how she was going to do it, but knew something had to be done. For her to even know where to begin, she needed someone inside the castle, someone to be our eyes and ears. So, having watched my family and people I loved killed by the king in front of me before we fled, I was angry and out for vengeance. So I volunteered when I turned 18. I left the coven and came to Silvera. I had to get into the palace by pretending to be a human servant, but I didn't know how to go about it. So when I heard about the becoming ball that was to be held in honor of the prince's 18th birthday, I decided to attend, and I guess my ancestors, who I spent the previous night calling on to accompany me, heard me because From the moment I walked in, the prince couldn't take his eyes off of me. The next morning, I woke up in Anselm's arms, and the plan was suddenly clear. We didn't have the numbers to fight a king's army that had already defeated us at our best. So the easy way was to get the prince to fall madly in love with me and become his queen. Once queen, I would bear him an heir to cement my claim to the throne and then kill him and bring my people back. But I was stupid to believe him when he said he wouldn't bend to his father's will, that he would marry a woman of his choosing. His father had already picked out a bride for him and would not hear of him marrying anyone other than her, and eventually, he caved and married his chosen bride. I tried to stick around as his mistress, even gave him a potion so he and his wife wouldn't have kids, buying myself time to figure out something. But when it rains, it pours. I received a blood-curdling call from the coven. The vampires had found us again and decimated our coven, and when I got there, only our regent with a handful of children had survived, and only because the children were cloaked. She was badly wounded, and it was clear she wasn't going to make it. So she used the last of her strength to put us into a deep sleep, long enough for the vampires to think we had all perished, and sealed us in a cave that was hidden in plain sight using a cloaking spell that will lift when we awaken. The spell was to last for 50 years, and we were all to stop aging at 25. The spell did break after 50 years, and we had to live up to the promise we made before our slumber. We promised to keep our coven alive, restore all that was lost, and pay the vampires back in kind for their betrayal. We lost everything because of them, and instead of protecting us, they preyed on us. But we woke up to a different world, and we needed a new plan. Or at least that's what I thought, until I discovered that the potion I gave Anselm had worn off, and he had 2 sons, which meant my plan was still viable. I just needed to change my target. Getting close to the older prince wasn't hard with how things are done nowadays. He was a cocky and arrogant bastard, but it didn't matter as long as he served his purpose. But I soon discovered that he wasn't Anselm's son. He was Alistair's son. Alistair was Anselm's best friend. They were like brothers, and he and his wife died fighting to protect Anselm's wife, leaving a few-month-old Nolan behind. That forced me to set my eyes on the younger brother. But the moment I got to know Ares, the more the lines started to blur, and I found myself straying from my mission. I fell for him and believed I could reason with him, but, unlike his father, he didn't fall into my traps. I could never get through to him no matter what I did, and I tried just about everything, even making him think he took my virginity. Time was ticking with no results, and my people started getting restless. I eventually had no choice but to exploit the only other thing I had discovered since getting closer to them, which is Nolan's thirst for the throne and his envy of Ares. He and I struck a bargain. If I helped him sit on the throne, he'd gladly allow my people back. I went back to the coven to look at our ancient volcanic scrolls, and there was only one spell that was capable of doing what needed to be done, but it required a big sacrifice. A sacrifice I didn't want to make, so I went back and tried to come up with another plan. But Marlene, our new regent, discovered that I had found a way, and I was stalling. I begged for more time to get Ares to fall for me, but they didn't want to hear of it, so I eventually did it. I killed Ares. Nova. I groan, checking the time, and it's 7 a.m. I'm normally fresh on my feet by this time, but ever since that day in the forest, I haven't been able to sleep well. It's been a week since then, and we haven't seen our savior again, but every night we wake up to his scent filling the air, like he was in the room when I came to. I was in a hospital room. I panicked and tried to leave, but a doctor came in and told me my secret was safe. When she saw how panicked I was, she told me she was the one who received me when I was brought in and knew who I was. She's also a werewolf from the Violet Moon clan and made sure I was attended to by an all-werewolf staff. Dr. Bennett asked them to keep my identity a secret. Otherwise, the media would have been buzzing with the news. I was incredibly lucky she was the one who received me, considering the hospital is not exclusive to werewolves. When she gave me my folder, detailing just how severely injured I was, I broke down and cried. I almost died if it wasn't for my mate. I woke up clutching a bloodied shirt, The one I'm wearing now, it's the shirt I was wearing when admitted to the hospital, and I've been sleeping in it ever since Dr. Bennett told me I was unconscious when I was brought in. But the moment they tried to get me out of it, I woke up and fought them off, desperately holding on to it, which is why I was still clutching it when I woke up. I bring it over my nose and inhale before closing my eyes, enjoying my dosage of high, but my eyes snap open as a memory of his eyes comes back to me. Were they really just black with no white in them? Or was I hallucinating that part? The only creatures whose eyes change completely are vampires and hybrids, at least according to the stories I've heard. But they become red, not black. I sigh, getting up, deciding to shake it off. First things first. We need to find him, so I get up and head to the shower. I've decided to go back to the hospital and ask Dr. Bennett more about the man who brought me. From her description, it wasn't my savior, but I'm assuming he must know him. A monster. Nova. Wait. Please, don't go, please, I shout out, abruptly sitting up on the bed after waking up to the feeling of his presence again. Looking at a silhouette that's now standing rigid on the other side of the sliding door. Please, don't leave, I repeat slowly, getting off the bed and advancing to him, my heart rate accelerating with every step I take. He continues standing rigid, and I reach for the handle and open the door. But when I look up again, he's gone. How did he do that? The hair at the back of my neck stands as this chill suddenly runs down my spine, and I take slow steps towards the balcony, not even sure why. 'Cause it's obvious he's gone. Why is he doing this to us? Doesn't he long for us just as we do for him? After standing there, staring at the wall in the distance, I finally decide to do the one thing I've been thinking about the whole week. Go back to the forest. The thought sends shivers down my spine after what happened the last time. But we can't go on like this. I've lost my appetite, I haven't slept well in days, and my visit to Dr. Bennett was a dead end. The man who brought me to the hospital didn't leave any details, but Dr. Bennett was able to provide me with a picture of him since they were busy going through the cameras when we got there. A nurse was found dead, her head decapitated in one of the wards last month, and there was no sign of who did it. 2 days later, they started to notice blood bags going missing, and they think it might be related to the incident of the nurse. As I was standing there listening to her, I started thinking about the other thing that's been haunting me since it happened. The hunters. I never told my family about them 'cause I don't want to tell them about him yet, not while his identity's still a mystery, but now I wonder if I shouldn't. What if all these strange occurrences are connected somehow? What if something big is about to happen? And by keeping quiet, I'm risking the lives of innocents. What if they are back? What if they're all back? I made excuses to my security detail and tracked down the man after leaving the hospital. But he wasn't much help since he didn't remember taking me to the hospital. I sigh, putting on my black clothes. I normally ask for Carla's advice when conflicted like this, but this time we are in the same boat. We are both just as unclear about how to proceed. We have now successfully made it to the forest, and Carla thinks we should shift, so we are ready should we encounter any trouble, and I think she's right. Plus our senses are more heightened when she's in charge. Yes, I don't want to risk someone sporting a wolf out here, as that might start a panic. But I'll never relax again in this forest. Plus it's 1 a.m. I doubt they'd be humans roaming around this time of the night. I let Carla take over, and we walked to the place where we were attacked last time. We'd been roaming around the forest for more than an hour, hoping he'd show up. With no luck, when Carla suddenly stops before taking off, heading south. I ask her what's going on, but she doesn't reply and keeps running, and just when I start to panic, she comes to an abrupt stop in front of what looks like an entrance to a cave. She slowly approaches the entrance, and just then, his scent hits my nose. Why? What would it be doing here? We slowly enter the cave, and if it weren't for Carla's eyes, I'd be feeling my way in. It's very dark. The further we progress, the more obvious it becomes that he's staying here, and my heart starts breaking with each step, looking at the condition of the place. How does one live in a place like this? Why would he be out here? I sport the pair of boots he was wearing that day, and there's a shirt lying next to them. There's nothing here. No blankets. No supplies that could explain how he's able to live here. I shift back to my human form, but trip on something as I take my first step. Almost falling, I look down to find what looks like an empty blood bag. So, he's the one stealing all the blood? But why? What would a werewolf be doing with blood? I whisper, shocked by all of this. But Carla replies, saying something I would regard impossible if every sign I've come across so far wasn't pointing to it. He's a vampire. I mutter to myself, and just then, I feel that familiar chill down my spine, and I know he's here. I can feel his presence right behind me, making me shiver. I slowly turn around, expecting to see him, but find no one. I know you're here, I shout out, grabbing the shirt on the floor and quickly putting it on, feeling the familiar warmth bubbling from my chest as soon as I touch it. Who are you? What are you? I ask, taking slow steps towards the entrance, and I can feel him on the other side, his dark, thick energy causing a little tremble in my step. I know he won't hurt me, but my body's still reacting to his aura, and he's definitely not a wolf. If he were, Carla would feel her counterpart, and now there's nothing. Not even a heartbeat. There's silence for a moment, only my heart drumming in my ears, and I open my mouth to speak again when he's suddenly in front of me. A gasp escapes me because of his speed. I stand rooted in my spot, fighting the sudden urge to back off as we stare into each other's eyes, his turning black for a moment before clearing again. My name is Nova Kane. What's your name? My voice trembles at the end. Feeling emotional suddenly after taking in his rugged appearance. What could have happened to him? He looks like someone who's been through a lot. Can you speak? I ask again, seeing how he's just looking at me and not replying. Why are you staying here? I ask, reaching out to touch him, but he grabs onto my hand and I gasp as electric sparks shoot up my arm from the point of contact, and he quickly lets go, his eyes black again. Who are you? He finally speaks, causing my toes to curl as my heart skips a beat, his deep voice covering my whole body with goosebumps. I'm Nova Kane. My voice comes out softer than intended. Who are you to me? Why do I feel like this around you? You don't know? Am I supposed to? Yes, we are both supposed to know. We are mates. Mates? He asks with a confused look on his face, and I open my mouth to speak, but the blood bags drop to the floor as he falls to his knees. Suddenly groaning while clutching his head, I follow him to my knees by reflex, cupping his face. What's happening to you? I ask as he falls on his side in excruciating pain that makes my heart rate accelerate, feeling what he's going through, and I place his head on my lap. Tears escaping my eyes at the intensity of his pain. I ask Carla what to do, but she doesn't know, so I massage his scalp, feeling helpless. Eventually, his groans become softer and I can feel him calming down. I don't let go of him nor stop massaging his head, but he suddenly goes limp in my arms, and I check him to find him passed out. I carefully lay him on the ground before snuggling next to him, trying to bring him any comfort I could. I open my eyes before raising my head, taking in my surroundings as the events of last night come flooding back, and I sit up, covering my legs with the jacket I woke up covered with, feeling conscious now that it's morning, but my eye catches something on my right. I turn my head to find my clothes folded neatly next to me, and a slight frown makes its way onto my face. How are they here? I can feel him behind me, so I turn to look at him, and he gets to his feet. I could smell them, he explains, probably sensing my confusion. I'll step out so you can get dressed, he adds, and starts to walk, but I speak, causing him to stop. You don't have to, you can just look away instead, I tell him, and he nods before looking away. I quickly get to my feet and start with my pants. I didn't mind the shirt last night 'cause it was dark, but now it's different. It's morning, and even this cave sees some light. I tell him when I'm done, and he sits back down, leaning on the wall, and I open my mouth to speak, but he speaks first. Nolan, you asked what my name is. It's Nolan and I don't know what my last name is, he says, and I notice his eyes turn black, saying the last part, but they quickly clear to their natural color. I walk up to him and join him. I have so many questions. I don't know where to begin. What happened to you last night? I don't know. I never know exactly what happens. I get these headaches, and whenever I get them, I pass out and wake up hours later. What happened to you, Nolan? Why are you living out here? A month ago, I woke up in the hospital. I didn't know how I got there or anything about myself except for my name. It was the only thing I could recall, and my body felt weird. How so? I softly ask, itching to hold his hand, feeling his intense emotions, but I don't want to scare him, so I refrain from doing so. I could hear, see, and feel everything. I could hear the heartbeats of the people in the entire hospital. I could hear what they were saying, and I could even hear them breathing. I could smell blood, and the more I smelt it, the more parched I felt. Suddenly, the door to my room swung open, and a nurse came in, but the closer she got to me, the more I knew what I needed to quench my thirst. I could hear her blood flowing in her veins, and he pauses and looks away with this look of shame, regret, and guilt on his face, causing me to reach for his hand. By reflex, he looks back at me as the sparks erupt from our hands, and I give him a reassuring look. You drank from her. I finish his sentence for him, and he nods. She tried to fight me off, screaming, but she didn't stand a chance. It was like something had taken over. The need for her blood was driving me insane, and I could feel my fangs itching, encouraging me to do it. It was like my body knew what to do, but my mind didn't, and before I realized it, I had sunk my teeth into her neck. The moment the liquid touched my tongue, all my senses awakened, and the more I drank, the more rejuvenated I started to feel. It felt right, natural, and I couldn't stop. I drank until her head snapped from her neck, and that's when I snapped out of it and realized what I had done. I dropped her head to the floor and stepped away from her, the gruesome scene freaking me out. But I hit something with my back, and when I turned around to look at it, I found a mirror, but instead of finding a man staring back, I saw a monster. My eyes were inhumane, my skin cold and as pale as a sheet, and I just knew I needed to get out of there before I killed everyone. So, without even thinking about it, I jumped out of the window. I was on the 15th floor, but I landed on my feet, and it didn't even hurt. I heard police sirens and decided to duck into the forest, since I was covered in blood. But then it started to rain, and I looked for shelter. That's when I came across this place, and it's been my home since. He pauses, running his hands over his face in frustration. I don't know who or what I am, he adds, looking at me with nothing but raw pain in his eyes. Desperate measures. Nova. I think I do, I tell him, squeezing his hand in assurance and watching the look of pain in his eyes change to one of confusion, fear, hope, and another I can't describe. You do? At least what you are. I think you're a vampire, Nolan. I tell him to see more confusion in his eyes, so I explain what a vampire is to him, but he cuts me off as he abruptly gets to his feet before pacing up and down with a panicked look on his face. I get up and walk over to him, but he puts his hands up, causing me to stop. I can't imagine how overwhelming this is for you, but I promise you'll be okay. I'll help you figure things out. I don't want to figure it out. I don't want to be this. I don't want to be a monster that hurts people. I'm sorry, Nolan, but I promise you, it's not all bad. Yes, we sometimes hurt people, but that's not all that we are. Sometimes we do good too. Like how you saved my life. If you were an ordinary human, I'd be dead right now, and most likely, so would you. Being magical beings is a burden, I know, but it's never one we can't carry. After a moment, he sits down and there's silence for a while before he speaks. You are a vampire too? He asks, sounding more like a statement than a question. No, I'm something else, I reply, sitting down on the boulder next to him. I'm a werewolf. We have super strength, heightened senses, and super speed like you, but we have two forms, and we are alive. I explain everything there is to know about wolves, including the mate bond to Nolan, as well as our differences also, not leaving out where wolves and vampires stand with each other. So he may tread carefully. The only thing I'm not able to explain to him is his eye color. A vampire's eyes turn red when they change, but his turn black, like his natural eye color, and that I've never heard of. I do promise to do some research on it though, and bring him books, so he can learn more about vampires as well as help him rediscover who he is. I'm going to steal a key to one of our apartments and move him in there while I figure out what to do. I can't have him living out there like this. I let out a sigh of relief, having successfully sneaked back into my room, but just as I closed the sliding door, there's a knock on my front door and I quickly throw on my robe, hiding my outfit. "Why are you still wearing a robe?" my mother asks, freaking out, stepping inside my room, and I look at her, confused. "It's Sunday. I don't have any obligations on Sundays. Kellen's people are here. Don't tell me you forgot," she says. And for the first time, I cringe, hearing his name. Shit. I forgot. There's a festival happening this weekend in Brakendal, and Kellen has sent his jet to come get me. He's expected to make a speech there, and now he wants me with him. I'm supposed to spend the night with his family and return tomorrow. But I can't do that, not now. Nolan needs me. I promised him I'd come back. And I need to organize a place to stay for him. I can't have him sleeping out there again tonight. I walk away from my mother, running my hands through my hair in frustration, and she picks up on it. "What's wrong?" "I can't go, Mom." "What? What are you talking about?" she asks, walking up to me, but I back away before turning away from her. "I can't leave. I can't go to Brakendal. I hear that. What I want to know is why." "I have somewhere to be, Mom, and it's important." "More important than your fiancé?" "Yes, more than him. Please, just make an excuse for me. I can't go, Mom," I tell her, still facing away from her but not able to hide the panic in my voice. "Nova, what's really going on?" she asks, gently placing her hands on my shoulders before turning me around to face her. "You've been acting strange the whole week, and now you want Kellen's people to go back without you after you sent them all the way? You know your father won't allow that. Tell me what's going on," she adds, and I feel tears pooling in my eyes. She's right, father won't let me turn them away. But I don't want to break the first promise I made to Nolan. I want him to trust me. He needs to trust someone in his life right now. "It's everything, Mom." I begin to say, but she cuts me off, taking my hand in hers. "It's overwhelming. I know marriage is a scary thing, especially when you don't know the other person that well. But I promise you'll be fine. I was the same when the time came for your father and I to get married. Our marriage was also arranged at a young age, like you and Kellen's. And because I had years to prepare myself for it, I thought I was ready, but when it started nearing up to the time, I became overwhelmed. I couldn't keep anything down for that whole week. But look at us. Now it's like we've loved each other all our lives, and that's how it's going to be for you too. You're going to make it work, and I'll be here for you every step of the way," she says, and pulls me into a hug. And the tears that have been threatening to fall finally fall, feeling like I'm suffocating. I want to do right by my parents and my people, and I was willing to sacrifice my soul for them. But now it's not just my soul in question. I know I just met Nolan, and the love that I feel for him is because of the bond. But he's my mate. We are made for each other, and there's a reason we found each other. No one has found their mate in decades. But here we are. Somehow we did. Now, I'm going to call Liliana, and she's going to help you get ready," she says as we pull back from the hug. Liliana is my personal maid, but I always allow her to do whatever it is that she would like to spend her time doing when my mother's not looking. She and I grew up together, and we were quite close as kids, but our roles don't allow us to be close now as adults. Her mother's the chief maid of the house. After that, she walks out, and I plop on the bed, continuing to cry. But just then there's a knock on the door, and Liliana comes in. "Milady, is everything okay?" she asks, and I raise my head to look at her. She knows she doesn't have to address me so formally when no one's around. I'm sorry, she says, walking up to me and sitting down on the bed. What's wrong? It's a long story, I reply, getting up to proceed to the shower. Feeling torn, Carla suddenly speaks in my head, suggesting something that could help us in our predicament. But I don't like it. I tell her I can't do it. I don't want to hurt her. But she insists, and after a long argument, I agree and step out of the shower. I need to ask you a huge favor, Anna, I tell her, walking up to her while she's busy laying my dress on the bed. Of course, what do you need? I need you to inject me with wolfsbane. What? Why? She asks, turning to look at me wide-eyed, shocked by my request. But I'm desperate. I can't go. Because I need it, okay? Please, just get it. No, I can't do that. Why would you ask me to poison you? Because I'm desperate, Anna. Desperate for what? I don't understand. What could make you want to kill yourself? Kill myself? I'm not trying to kill myself. I just want to get sick so I don't have to go to Brakendal. Why? Anna, please, I'm running out of time. Just do as I say, I tell her, placing my hands on her shoulders. But she looks away from me. Look, I know it's a big ask, and I dash. I could get killed, Nova. I know, and no one will find out, I promise. What if you get too sick and the king finds out? I won't. You'll just inject me with a small dosage, please. I'm begging you. I don't know, Nova. All of this is confusing to me. The prince is your fiancé, and it's not like this is the first time you're going over there. You are not making sense right now, and you're scaring me. If you don't want to marry him, this is not the way to do. Dash. I found my mate, I blurt out, desperate for her to stop her rambling and do as I say. What? What do you mean? She asks, now looking at me like I'm losing my mind. I mean, I found him, Anna. I found my fated mate, the man I'm supposed to marry, the man I love. But that's crazy. Mates don't exist. Everybody knows that. I know, Anna. But I found mine, and I promised to come back to him tonight. Look, I know how crazy I sound to you right now, and I'll answer all the questions you have. I'll even show him to you. But right now, I need you to help me. I need these people to go back to Brakendal without me, please. I have never asked you for anything. Do this for me, please. I promise I won't get you in trouble, I plead with her, and she looks at me silently for a moment, her eyes searching mine. Fine. I'll do it, but Nova, I don't like this. I don't like it one bit, she says after a minute, and I let out a breath of relief, pulling her into a hug. Thank you. I owe you. I start getting dressed. In the meantime, I know this is extreme, but it's an extreme situation. Nolan's been through a lot, and I'm the only person he's got. I don't want him to doubt me, especially not while our situation's still fragile like this, and the thought of having someone else touch me right now repulses me. Kellen would see right through me. He'd know something has changed. There's no way I can go through with this marriage. My dad will have to find some other way to make alliances with Kellen's father. Surely they can understand. I finish getting ready and stand in front of the mirror, my nerves getting the better of me with every minute that passes. Looking at the door, waiting for it to open. I've been trying to link Anna, but she's blocking me out. Honey. I hear my mother's voice on the other side, and my heart accelerates. Yes, Mom. How far are you? It looks like there might be a storm coming later on. I'm almost done. I'll be down in a minute. Okay. I hear her say after a moment. Before walking away, I rush over to my phone and dial Anna's number to find out what's taking her so long. But her phone rings on top of the bed, causing me to throw mine on the bed as well as I start pacing up and down in panic. Did she lie to me? Is she even getting the wolfsbane? After 30 minutes, I give up and grab my purse. Before looking at myself in the mirror again with a heavy heart, I walk up to my door. but it opens before I can reach the handle, and Anna comes in holding something inside her pocket, causing tears to pool in my eyes as relief washes over me. "I thought you bailed on me," I tell her, closing the door behind her before following her further into the room. "I'm sorry for blocking you out, but you were making me nervous, and I had to make excuses to get into the armory and make sure no one sees me taking it. Wolfsbane is not something you can just take." "I know, thank you, Anna," I tell her as she stands in front of me, filling the small syringe, keeping promises. "Nova. Sweetheart, are you all right?" my mother asks, alarmed. As I stagger just before climbing down the staircase, the wolfsbane is starting to kick in, but I'm trying to keep strong. I don't want them to see that I'm sick yet. My mother knows I didn't want to go. I don't want her to be suspicious. She must at least see me try to go. Kellen's men bow, and one comes up to meet me halfway, taking my hand and helping me down. "I'm fine, Mother, thank you for knocking some sense into me," I tell her with a soft smile, and she returns it with an even bigger one, the pride shining in her eyes, almost making me feel bad for what I've done. "You're very welcome, you look absolutely beautiful," she compliments. "Thank you," I reply with a curtsy before bidding her goodbye, and walking to the exit. I get inside the SUV, and the guys start the drive. A few minutes into the drive, I groan as the pain from the poison intensifies. "Milady, are you all right?" the guy next to me asks, alarmed, looking at the beads of sweat that have formed on my forehead. "Yes," I start to say, but stop mid-sentence as I start retching, causing him to ask the driver to stop. He gets out and walks around to my side to open my door, concern written all over his face. "Call the prince," he instructs the one who's driving to call Kellen. I need to throw up," I speak between the moans of pain, and he helps me out of the car. I empty the contents of my stomach and feel instant relief after that, but I don't show it. I still clutch my stomach, groaning, causing them to run around like headless chickens. Freaking out. The amount of wolfsbane I took is only enough to make me sick for a little while before Carla expels it. "It hurts so bad, please take me home," I tell him, and he looks at the other one, who's still talking on the phone, conflicted. The other one's still waiting for Kellen apparently. He's indisposed. He ends the call, saying Kellen will be notified of his call and will call back. "Please take me home. I can't go on like this," I speak again to the other one, now grabbing his jacket sleeves. "I'm sorry, milady. I want to, I really do, but I cannot just make this decision." "So, you'd rather I get there dead? Which one do you think will piss him off more? Leaving me behind because I was sick, or arriving there with my corpse because you didn't want to get into trouble?" "I'm sorry, milady, please get in the car," he says, offering his hand, and I take it and hop back in again, a part of me starting to panic. I had calculated my plan until this point. I knew they would call Kellen, but I didn't know he wouldn't be available. What do I do now? I slump back on the seat, letting out a low groan, still clutching my stomach. I try him again. The one next to me says again to the one in front, but he says he was told he'll call back. What does Kellen do to them exactly? Why are they all so afraid of him? The airport comes into our view, and I ask the driver to stop the car again. If I board that plane, there'll be no turning back. I think about pretending to faint, but I'm scared that might not work as they might take me, so I decide to stall instead. He opens the door for me, and I kneel on the ground. Retching, I watch the other guy out of the corner of my eye as he paces up and down. Anxious, he tries to talk me into holding on until we get to the plane, since we're almost there, but I refuse to budge. The sky's starting to darken, and you can tell the storm's almost here, causing them to panic even more. After I don't know long, I hear the phone ring, and the driver answers on the first ring. Desperation evident in his voice, he walks over to me and asks if I can speak, but I shake my head no. I hear him relay it to the person on the other side, and I can tell it's Kellen. "Yes, my prince," I hear him say before ending the call. "We must take the lady back," he says to the other one, and I almost jump for joy. Exposing myself, he carries me back to the car and they turn it around, heading back home, and I mentally let out a sigh of relief that was close. A few minutes later, we arrive home and my mother comes rushing up to us as soon as we enter. Panicked, the guys explain what happened, and she immediately instructs one of the servants to call the doctor. My dad also comes out and scoops me into his arms. Taking me to my room, I ask my mother to call Anna, and she does. I need her here. To complete the rest of our plan, my parents stay with me until the doctor arrives. And he does so in a couple of minutes. He checks me and runs some tests. But the important one is the blood test. Even if he can pick up wolfsbane signs on my body, the conclusion will depend on the blood results. And Anna and I are one step ahead on that. I knew the doctor would be called once I came back sick. So I asked Anna to draw some of my blood before taking the wolfsbane and keep it in a vial, ready to swap it with the one the doctor would draw later. Even though the wolfsbane isn't a lot, it will take time before it clears. Therefore, showing on the blood works, Anna volunteers to assist the doctor, giving her the chance she needs to do the exchange after the doctor is done. He informs my parents that he will come back with the results and gives me some sedatives. In the meantime, the medication makes me drowsy and I give in to sleep after glancing at the clock to see that 2:05 p.m. I'll be awake by nightfall. Nolan the vampire. I glance at the entrance of the cave and lightning flashes, accompanied by rumbling thunder as the rain drenches the forest. I get up and walk to the entrance. Looking up at the pitch-black sky that seems to resemble my soul. Nova had promised to come see me tonight, but she hasn't shown up. I don't blame her if she doesn't come, seeing how it is outside. But a part of me can't help but be sad. I was kind of looking forward to seeing her again. I still don't know how to feel about everything she told me, but I know how I feel about her ever since I saw her that night. I have never been able to stay away from her. She makes my non-existent heart skip a bit every time I think about her. Her eyes make me feel a strange warmth that covers my whole body and goosebumps. Her voice is like a melody especially created for my soul, and I just know I want to listen to it for the rest of my life. My lips stretch into a smile at that thought, but it quickly falters as I start to think of what a mess I am. I always sneak into her room and watch her sleep. But tonight I'm scared. She's a princess and I'm just a nobody, living in a cave in the middle of the forest. I don't even know who I am. A tear trails down my cheek as this overwhelming sense of fear washes over me. What if she bailed? What if she came to her senses and decided she wants nothing to do with this? I certainly wouldn't blame her. The thoughts cause me to stagger, and I sit back down, taking my head in my hands. The first few nights after escaping the hospital, I spent crying myself to sleep, trying to figure out what I was. I racked my brain, trying to remember something, anything other than my name, anything about my family, my parents. I have to have had someone in my life, someone who cared, someone who noticed I was gone. Why didn't they ever look for me? What did I do? My thoughts are cut short as the familiar lightning bolt strikes inside my head, causing me to fall to my knees, clutching my head. Nova. My eyes snap open and I abruptly sit up on the bed, disoriented for a moment, hearing Carla's desperate voice ringing in my head. No, 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 please no. I scramble for my bedside clock as everything comes back to me, knocking it off. In the process, I jump to my feet and pick it up before looking at it, and I let out a sigh of relief. It's 11:05 p.m., so I'm only a few hours out, but it's not morning yet, which means I can still keep my promise to Nolan. I take out a black outfit and mind link Anna. In the process, she has a role to play in my plan. Nolan deems himself a danger to people and believes he should stay away from them, so I'm concerned he might not want to move into the apartment, so I will talk to him first before asking Anna to pick us up at the edge of the forest. I asked her to take the keys and go wait in the apartment for my instructions, and I hope she did. She answers the link immediately and tells me she's at the apartment, causing more relief to wash over me. After getting dressed, I check if the coast is clear and dash into the gardens, heading for the wall as usual. I make it to the other side with no difficulty. Tonight is not the night for anyone to be out. It's pouring, and I keep flinching as the lightning bolts strike. The moment I get to the forest, I shift to my wolf form And Carla takes off immediately once the shift is complete. I would have preferred to leave my room in my wolf form already, as it would have saved us a lot of time. But it wouldn't be sneaking out. If I did that, we would definitely get caught. After what feels like forever, we reach the cave, but my eyes widen. Finding Nolan passed out on the ground. He must have had one of those headaches again. I quickly change back to my human form and rush over to him. I look around for something to cover myself with, but I don't see it. So I kneel next to him naked and pull his head onto my lap, a few tears escaping my eyes. Why is this happening to him? He's already living out here with no one. Does he have to have this happen to him on top of everything? I massage his scalp, humming a tune to try to stop myself from crying. I need to be strong for him after. I don't know how long he moves and stirs, but I block his view with my hand as he turns to look at me. I'm not wearing anything, I whisper, blushing for some reason, and he sits up with his eyes closed before taking his shirt off and handing it over to me. I take it and put it on. You had one of those headaches again? I ask, sounding more like a statement than a question, and he nods, still looking away. You can look now, I tell him, and he does. You came? He says, looking surprised. I did. I promised I would, didn't I? You did, he replies, nodding, his voice soft, and we stare at each other silently for a moment as we start getting lost in each other's eyes. My heartbeat increasing with every second. His eyes start to turn black as we involuntarily lean into each other, but a lightning bolt snaps us out of the trance and they quickly turn back to their natural color. I clear my throat before starting to speak again, deciding to get to the difficult part. Nolan, I softly say, taking his hand in mine, causing his eyes to turn black again. I need you to come with me. I have arranged a place for you to stay. I can't, he quickly replies, his eyes immediately clearing as he retrieves his hands before getting to his feet. This is no way for anyone to live, I speak, getting to my feet as well and walking up to him before placing my hand on his back. I know you're scared of hurting people, but you won't. How do you know? How can you guarantee that? Nolan asterisk I dash. No asterisk. I'm not going anywhere. I can't be around people I can't, he says, freaking out, and I pull him into a hug, tears pooling in my eyes. You're not a monster, I whisper, tightening my hold on him.